Alright, what's up guys, it's Mitch or Deity, and today we're going to be going over one of the most asked questions. It's going to be about who should you pull from Story Summon for now. So I'm going to go ahead and show my other account real quick. Before we get into that, I want to show that if you are curious about summoning and watching the video as this is coming up, so if you watch this and it is August 21st or within a few days of it, just know anniversary is I think the 30th of August. So the date that this game originally came out to the KR or Korea server is on August 30th or 31st, meaning that there's probably going to be some type of event. There's going to be some type of event. We just don't know what yet. We find that out on Wednesday. So those of you that are sitting there wanting to summon, I know that you guys are sitting wanting to summon so bad. You're sitting on a bunch of bookmarks. Some of you guys, I know a lot of you probably did end up summoning on the collab units. That's fine. If you didn't take my advice and got like dizzy or alpha, you're not gonna be able to use them for a long time. Rem, you're probably not gonna be able to use for a long time. If you think you can use her in Wyvern, you can't. If you're, I mean, you might be able to, but it's not gonna be very good. Amelia, you could probably use sooner than all the other characters. Guilty Gear, if you got Biken, you could use her to one shot almost right away. So Biken's the best value there. But we've already talked about all that. But those of you that did summon last year, or I don't know if it was last year or the year before, they gave us a triple banner to where you could select any RGB characters that were a part of the side story options that you could put into one banner. It would take their specific artifact, and you could summon on a pool that just had those three characters. And if you summon any of those characters, it was a coin thing, just like the Guilty Gear. And if you summoned, you got a coin, but if you got any of the 5 stars along the way, it didn't reset pity or anything, you just kept getting coins. So you could do 120 summons or 600 bookmarks on that banner. If you get a couple 5 stars, if you get 2 of the 3 characters you selected, then you could buy the third one from this, meaning it's the best summon value that we ever had for regular characters. So it's a way that whales end up getting imprints for their characters, and it's just it's a great banner option to have. So the more bookmarks you have in case they have an event like that, the better. But that's part of why I'm trying to teach you guys to save, because you never know when things are coming, especially as a new player. You don't know these dates. You don't know Epic 7's anniversary date, probably. You don't know when certain things have happened in the game. So I'm trying to teach you to save and not just always go and spend your summons right away. So now that I showed that, we had a little bit of bookmarks. We're going to go into this and we're going to go through all these side story characters. I did just finish an Abyss video, and we will be doing an Ancient Inheritance video early tomorrow. So if you are in my guild, or any of my guilds, I have 40 something guilds in my Discord. If you're in any of those, then we will be all following hopefully close to the same strategy. Some guilds might deviate a little bit, but you need to make sure if you're in one of my guilds that you are getting the role for your guild in the server. So you need to go in there, follow the directions. You have to react with the emote next to your guild. Once you do that, you will be able to see your specific guild chat. Once you do that, you can see if your guild leader is wanting to do anything specific, and they'll tell you what to do for Ancient Inheritance. Otherwise, I will just give you exactly what I'm doing. You can follow that, and you will be fine for Ancient Inheritance. So now let's go in and look at the side story options. So if you are in here and wanting to know, should I summon on any characters? It's going to depend on where you're at in the story, because the further you get in the story, the more chapter or these you unlock. So if you've only cleared episode 1, you only have this list. In this list, I will go through each character and tell you whether they're good or not, and then I'll tell you the number 1 and 2 options for each. As a new player, this is for new players summoning, newer players. So Arby or Vildred is okay. He's a good farmer. You have other options. I would not bother summoning him. Asaria is going to be one of the 2 top picks for this. Asaria is fantastic. She's going to make PvE a lot easier for you for certain things. She's not necessary in any ways. Why I didn't have you get her from selective summon. We got Destina because she is really good in PvP, whereas Asaria you cannot ever use in PvP. So getting characters for PvE only just usually feels bad for me because I'm a PvP player. I love PvP in this game, so that is why I suggested Destina, but she is a good option to go back and get. She'll make certain things a little bit easier for you. Charles would not bother getting. Crow is not bad. He would probably be the number 3 option. Crow can be used as a front tank for Wyvern. If you have Montmorency as your Wyvern front tank, you can switch him onto there. And your Wyvern Crow build can be used in Guild Wars, and you can set him on your Guild War defense, making your guild a lot stronger because Crow will most likely one-shot one of your opponent's characters before they kill him, making it to where that person who attacked you will have 1 less unit to use on the next person they attack, making your guild just overall stronger. So Crow is always a good defense character for Arena. Basar would not bother. Kisei is going to be too hard for you to gear for a very long time. I would not bother doing her story. Tywin is not very great. He can be used as Wyvern for tank, but I would not do him. If you're going to do one for Wyvern for tank, do Crow. Tywin just isn't as good. He does have some benefit in PvP now. He got buffed recently, but still not great. Surmi, you get for free. Tamron, you should have already gotten. If you're following my guide, she should be the first character you get right once you beat 1010. You start her side story and get her immediately. So you should already have her. Bologna, I would not bother getting. She is good for some PvE. Charlotte is pretty decent for PvP, but she is not a high priority unit. There's a lot of games that she can't be used in. So just know that, but she is getting even a little bit better now that ML Landy's out. So she is pretty high up there. Chloe, I would not bother even thinking about getting. She can be good for Wyvern, but Wyvern's so easy with the free options they give you. Don't bother. So Melissa is not good, don't bother. Haste is not good, don't bother. Celine is pretty good. She can be used at the highest level of PvP. So she is a pretty solid option to grab. But the number one pick is Cesaria. For this, second pick would be either Crow, Charlotte, or Celine. So that will be my picks for that. Now going into episode 2. We have Violet. He's decent. He's easy to gear. He can win you fights that you should never win. He's pretty up there. Cowrick, too hard for you to build. He's not good even for top players with insane gear. Lulika is decent for PvE, not good for PvP. She can be used in a couple different things, but not a necessary character. Lilibet, don't ever bother with her unless she gets another buff. I think she had like 2 buffs. Ray is also not worth it. There's better options. Elena is pretty good. She can be used in PvP pretty well. Pavel, you will not be able to gear. He's fallen off pretty hard, but he takes too high of gear that anyone as a new player will not be able to gear him. I've been playing the game for 3 years and I still can't really make a good Pavel. So, and he just takes too good a gear that you could put on another character that's just better. Rowana is the number one pick from this. Rowana can be used in PvP and she makes a lot of PvE easier. So she will already, I'll tell you right now, be number one. Connie, you get for free from doing her missions from beating chapter 4. So you don't need to worry about getting her. Euphine is great for one thing, and that is exploiting lab. There's a lab exploit that I will teach you later. It is a great way to get ring and necklace charms, but the problem is you need 2 ML4 characters, I think, to even set this up. So I'm not going to have you guys mess with this at all right now, but she is a character that you might look into getting later if you just happen to have some extra resources and want to boost your labyrinth ancient coin farming. Destiny you should have got from selective summon. She is fantastic. If you watch X7 World Cup, she's picked almost every other game. Great character. Vivian you get for free. Lilius is pretty solid. Not great. She's great for PvE. She's decent for PvP. So overall, she's a pretty good character, but with getting Araz, pretty good. The thing is, Lilius is an extra cleanser. She helps you fight Lua if you have the Mortelix artifact. So she has her benefits, but the number one pick from this is definitely Rowana, and you can just kind of gauge from what I said from the other ones. They're all okay. Violet's probably tied for number 2 with Lilius, I guess. So going into number 3, Cecilia, don't bother. You don't need her in any way. She's only good for PvE, not good for PvP. Shu, you should get from your selective summon too. She is the number 1 pick for this for sure, but you should already have her if you're following the guide. Valen, not great. Flan, she's good, but you're not going to be able to use her for years of playing the game probably unless you get lucky, or are a whale and farming insane gear, so do not bother with Flan. I know she looks like she might be good, but she's not going to be good for you. Now we have Ilanav. She's okay, but not going to work well for new players. You're not going to have good enough gear for her. That's the thing with building units on counter set is it takes really, really well rolled gear, and you're not going to have that for months. Mortelix is kind of the same way. He's gotten buffed recently. He's okay, but I wouldn't try to use him as a player. We already talked about Euphine. She has 2 side stories for some reason. Now we have Senya. This is going to be your number 2 pick. Senya is easy to build. You can get away with some very weird gear on her. She doesn't take gear that most other characters take. She's great for PvP. You can put her on your defense teams. She will fill up a lot of roles that are great. So she would be your number 2 pick for this. Alencia would be your number 3 pick from this. Alencia you can build early game by buying the injury set from the arena shop, and injury Alencia is fantastic. So having her as an option makes your teams just way more versatile when getting into PvP, and she makes a lot of Guild War fights very easy. So she's not a defense character, she will be a character you pick on offense. If she's on injuries, she can just dismantle APOC Ravis and some of the hardest characters to deal with in the game. Ida, not good anymore. She just doesn't do enough damage. She just fallen off as hard as possible. So do not get Ida. Even cleavers don't use her anymore. From my understanding, I can't do anything with her. I've tried to use her not too long ago, and she just doesn't do enough damage for you. So next up, we have our chapter 4. Most of you will not be to this point yet where you have all these unlocked, but you will know for the future. So Hua Young, fallen off super hard. She used to be probably one of the top 2-3 characters in the game. They nerfed her, one of the only nerfs we've gotten in years, I feel like, but she is not really good at all anymore. She might make a comeback here or there later, but right now if you do use her, you need too good of gear as a new player. She used to be the new player easiest character to go to and build. She made being a new player super easy in this game, but not the case anymore. Piera is pretty good character, but you do not want her as a new player. You will not be able to build her. So there's 3 characters in this that all need speed, and as a new player, you're not going to be able to build them. So I'm just going to tell you that now. I would not bother summoning on these until you get the speed for them, or else it's just a waste. Arya is up there. She's very, very good for a lot of content. She takes pretty weird gear, is one nice thing and one bad thing. You won't know the kind of gear as a new player that you're going to be aiming for her. But the nice thing is if you do get that gear, you have a home for it, and she is a pretty solid character, especially for climbing arena, and she could be really good in Guild Wars too. EV or RTA not picked as often anymore, but she was really good in RTA for a while. Taeyu, terrible. Zahak is a character that takes pretty good gear to build. He is amazing though if you do build him properly, but I wouldn't try to get him too early on your account. Maybe wait a few months until you get some good speed gear, maybe a couple penetration pieces. And once you get that, you can build him like 240. He is pretty easy to build, but you need the speed. If you don't have the speed, he's useless. So until you get decent speed for him, I would not bother. Yulha is very easy to build. She is very, very good. She's just like the Crow character I talked about earlier. She has her S3, can just kill a character. She deals damage based off the HP she's missing. So she can be really, really great. So very good for early players to give you an extra knight option and just overall survivability because she gives your team, she's a tank that gives your team survivability. Sharoon, this is going to be one of the top picks for this. She is amazing right now. I don't see her not being amazing for a very, very long time. She counters so many meta units. She carried me on my challenge account. This would be one of the highest characters I would put on here if you're trying to get into PvP, but just know Sharoon cannot be used in PvE in any way. So I don't think there's anywhere she's useful at all. Next up, we have Lua. She's one of the speed characters. If you do not have speed, you will not be able to use her. She is, I would say Lua's like the strongest RGB in the game, the red, blue, green characters. There, if you watch the episode of World Cup, she was banned literally every game, pre-banned from the start. And when people let her through, they instantly won. I think only Europe had one instance where she lost her games. So Lua is, I abuse this character on my main account. Every single first pick I get, I pick her immediately in RTA. She is too strong, but if you can't build her at least like 280, I would not bother doing it. You will not be able to get her proper use out of her. So I don't think it's a good idea for new players to ever try to pull her for now. Just wait till you get the speed gear. And that same as Ran. A lot of players always do this. I do account work for people, so people pay me to work on their accounts. I re-gear their accounts, craft gear for them, all of that. If you're ever interested in that, join the Discord, DM me. I'm way behind on it right now, so I don't know why I'm advertising it, but a lot of players will try to put middle speed gear on him, meaning that he would be like 250, 260. That is not fast enough to do anything. You're better off developing a more standard playstyle because those characters are easier to gear and putting the gear you have on your Ran on another character that doesn't need to be, that only needs to be like 220, 230 speed. So if your Ran is just not new player friendly. If you are below 280 speed on Ran, I highly suggest you just move the gear off of him and do not try to use him. You are not using him correctly at that point. If you're trying to cleave at that point, you're going to never be able to climb past, like, I don't know, you maybe could get to Challenger, but everybody is fast in this game if they've been playing for at least 4 months. So, or well, they're fast in this game, they're playing for 4 months and know what they're doing. So you are not going to have a good time if you're trying to develop the YDCB cleave play style without having speed. It's just not going to work for you, and a lot of people need to realize that so they can progress and get their accounts better. Next up, we're going to have Elagos and Abigail. Abigail's amazing for new players. You can build her without any damage, full bulk. She keeps your backline alive, meaning that you can get, like, you could put your Aiden, once you get Aiden from chapter 4, you can put her in the backline, draft her with Abigail, so that they try to one-shot Aiden with Sahak or something. Your Aiden stays alive. and then you can maybe win the game from there. So Abigail is fantastic for new players. Elagos terrible for new players and terrible for old players. He got used like for the week he came out, and everyone stopped using. There might be a couple people on ladder that do some kind of specific team with him, but most people do not even think to touch him. So there's going to be all the characters. If you're thinking about summoning in chapter 4, like I said, Sharoon would be my number 1 pick here. Yulha would be second best, and then if you are starting to get some gears, the Hawk's great, and Arya is great, and the 3-speed characters, Rand, Lua, and Pierre are all great characters, but you won't be able to use them. So episode 4 has the best stuff you can get possible, but Rowana is going to be one of the number 1 picks I tell you to get, and then from there, Senya would be my second. Those are 2 characters that will just do so much work for you. So that is all I have for this video. Hopefully this is able to help you. I will have an Ancient Inheritance guide out in a few hours once I want to do the Ancient Inheritance and walk through it. So those of you that are watching this at a different point, you're not going to know what I'm talking about right now, but it is a guild thing. But either way, join the Discord. If you need a guild, join the Discord. No matter when you're watching this, if your guild sucks and you're not getting weekly rewards, join the Discord. We're making sure all our guilds are set up properly. If the guilds start falling apart, we'll make sure to get you in a better guild right away, and we'll get rid of that guild and start a better one. But as of right now, we're having probably 20-30 people. We're getting a new full guild every day minimum. Today I made 4 new guilds. So if that doesn't tell you how many people we have and how active our guilds are going to be, then I don't know what to tell you. But it's been Mature Deity. Hope you guys got something on this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.